Hello, hi, and welcome to this episode of the Mandy Mayer podcast. As per usual, this is the podcast where we talk all about your health goals, you getting fitter, you getting stronger, you working on those daily non-negotiables as you work towards smashing those goals and smashing that progress. As some of you will know by now, I've actually started making these podcasts into video podcasts. I want to just test it, just experiment with it. So if you do prefer video, please keep in mind that I have got a playlist on my YouTube channel where you can go and watch these podcasts in a video format. And again, just a massive thank you to every single one of you who show up on a weekly basis to listen to these podcasts, to learn from these podcasts or from these episodes, and who actually take value from it. And I always say, knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is potential power. The moment you start actioning that knowledge, that is your power. That is your superpower. For anyone that is starting to watch these episodes on my YouTube channel, you will notice that I look down every now and again, or I look away. That's purely because my recording software is right in front of me, and I always just got to check that it is recording. Okay, so just those formalities out of the way. Let's get into today's episode of South Africa's #1 health and fitness podcast. I mean, I'm joking. I don't have the stats on it. I just made that up. But let's get into today's episode of the Mandy Mayer podcast. I come to you guys today with one question, with a question. If you are put in a difficult situation, do you sink or do you swim? Say, for example, your health and fat loss expedition is getting quite difficult and it's quite a struggle and it seems very monotonous, and maybe you're not seeing progress, and maybe you're just getting a little bit frustrated. Maybe you're losing motivation. Maybe you wake up one morning and you're like, well, this is not for me. In that moment, do you let all those struggles be the reason that you sink? Or do you tell yourself, you know what, let's put on those polyotters, let's put on those water wings, let's make ourselves as buoyant as possible and continue swimming no matter what it takes. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story today about my sink or swim situation and what I went through, and giving myself only one option. So I didn't have plan A to plan Z. I gave myself one option, plan A, and that was it, because plan B was not going to be the best case scenario. And I realized in that moment, when I gave myself one option and one option only, there was no out. There was no way that I could look for a different way of doing things. There was no way where I could say, maybe I'll try a little bit later. And I say I gave myself one option. It's pretty much the universe that gave me one option, to sink or to swim. But because I was given that sort of option, that only that one way forward, I had no other option but to swim. And I remember the worst day of my life. The worst day. It was one of the scariest days of my life. I was sitting on the balcony outside and I was crying. It was the day where lockdown was announced in South Africa, globally, wherever. And I knew that because I was in the tourism industry, retrenchment was on the cards for myself. I also knew that I had just moved into a new apartment. I also knew that I had nothing to fall back onto because I was in a huge amount of debt. Now, the job that I was at, the retrenchment package, was dismal because it was a new job. I had basically just started it. So it's not like I even got a massive retrenchment package. Yeah, I'm speaking out of the room here. But anyway, like I always say, I'm always very transparent and very open in a way, or hoping that you can actually resonate with it and maybe draw some inspiration or motivation from it. And I remember that day so clearly. It was the scariest day of my life. I was crying. I remember taking photos of myself crying, random, I know, but I wanted to have those photos of myself in a scary place where I was at my most vulnerable, not to share it with the world, because honestly, I haven't shown anyone those photos, but to have as a reminder for myself of the difficulties that I was going to push through. I gave myself no other option. The other option was obviously losing everything, which I did, but then the other option would be moving back to my mom and dad. And that, in my mind, was not even an option. That was a worst case scenario, meaning if I had given absolutely every single little thing that I had in my body to be a success in what I wanted to do, and it was not working out, my mom and dad would have taken me back with open arms, okay? But that was my worst case scenario. My only other option that I gave myself was to swim in that moment. And you know what? The easiest option, I always sit and I think back about it, and I always think and I remind myself of the day that turned into weeks and the weeks that turned into months. And like I said, the easiest option for me at that moment in time would have been to move back to my mom and dad and just do what I had to do to, get through it day by day by day. But I used that opportunity. I want to go as far as saying the worst time of my life, because it really was. I cannot explain to you guys. And again, this is me being very vulnerable and very open and transparent. It was the worst day of my life. It was the worst time. It was everything was unknown. I wasn't earning an income. I had to sell my car. I had to sell most of my materialistic items within my house that had some sort of value. It really wasn't easy. And again, like I said, the easiest way for me would have been to move back to my mom and dad. And I gave myself no other option but to swim. And the moment you give yourself that as the only option, and, the moment we stop, I hate to say this, or I hate to be the person that is going to say this, but the moment you stop looking for the easy way out, or the moment you creep back into your comfort zone because of the fears that are outside of your comfort zone, no growth takes place there. The easy way, nothing's going to change if we take the easy way. Nothing's going to change if you constantly go back into your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is literally a place where you are comfortable, okay? Your comfort zone is where no growth takes place. Now, I know that your comfort zone is guarded by irrational fears, but I realized in that moment, I literally have nothing left to lose. I have hit rock bottom, okay? And I'm like, I have to just get up. I have to put on every single little tube that I have, whether it's tubes around my arms, my water wings, my poly otter, whatever it was, just to stay afloat. And I didn't look 4 months down the line. Every day I woke up and I just looked at that mountain, Table Mountain, my view, and I was like, today, Mandy, you graft your flippin' ass off, because if you don't graft your ass off today, what's the other plan? The other plan that is there for you is to sink and to move back to your parents. And the craziest thing, the actual message that I wanted to share with you guys today in this episode of the podcast, which I get to after almost 10 minutes of recording and giving you the most random, vulnerable introduction, is that oftentimes the most difficult period in your life, or the struggles that you are going through, or the difficulties that you are facing, okay, sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, those things, those times, those struggles are happening for a reason. I was in a job that I absolutely hated. My life at that moment before COVID happened, I cannot explain to you. It's like everything was just this boring, mundane thing of being on like a hamster wheel, and I wasn't achieving anything. I had reached the highest position within my niche industry, within the travel industry, and I didn't feel like there was no purpose to my life at that moment. And for me, I was stuck. There was times where I went home to my mom and dad's house after work, because at that stage I was living with them, because I had just gone through a horrendous breakup, also where I had lost a lot of things that I had built up over 10 years. So I already knew what rock bottom had felt like, now that I think about it. And I would go home to my mom and dad's house after a day at this job that I had, and there were some nights where I was in tears, and I said to my mom, I can't do this. Like, it feels like I'm getting nowhere. It feels like I'm stuck. And she kept asking me, she's like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? And I said to her, I want to have my own business. I want to work with people. I want to help people. I want to be that support for people on their health and fat loss expedition that I didn't have on my health and fat loss expedition. And she asked me, she's like, what is holding you back from doing that? I said, well, firstly, mother, I've just gone through a breakup, technically a divorce, because myself and my ex-partner at that stage were together for 10 years. So you're going through this massive change. I'm in so much debt already as it is. And I'm like, well, the financial risk, it is a big risk. That fear of failure. What if I start it and I fail? The embarrassment that comes with failure. And like I said, the financial risk for me was massive because I didn't have any finances to lose. I was in so much debt. I was like, how am I even going to start this? And that was the reason why I was going to this job that I hated every single day. And I had no passion. I had no purpose. I was not growing. And I felt myself slipping back, not back into old ways, but just not waking up every morning with that oomph. But every day I got in my car and I went to work and I was at the job that I didn't enjoy or that I had no passion for anymore. I did have passion at one stage for the travel and tourism industry. But towards the end of my career in travel and tourism, it became a lot more about managing people. Obviously, that comes with a higher position within the company. I totally get that. But that's probably the moment where I started losing the passion for the industry. Anyway, we digress. And I thought when COVID hit, okay, I honestly thought this is the worst thing that can ever happen to me because I had just moved out of my mom and dad's house. I think it was actually the 1st of March 2020 that I moved into my own apartment. I started finding my feet again, started getting my social life back a little bit, and all of a sudden COVID hit. I was like, oh, damn it, now I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my income. And it did all happen. All of that happened. And that worst time of my life, that most difficult time of my life turned out, and this is the message that I actually wanted to give to you guys today. I mean, it could have been a 1-minute podcast episode if I'm honest, but I wanted to give you a bit of a background story. The most difficult time of my life, the most stressful time of my life, the time where I was surrounded by so many fears and just everything that went with it, turned out to be the best thing that could ever have happened to me. And this is where I get into another point of the message. Had I decided not to swim, had I decided to give up in that very moment and move back to my mom and dad's house and just take it day by day, had I decided not to keep pushing forward and chase my goals and chase my dreams and chase my passion, regardless of what the universe was throwing at me, I would have never been where I am today. And that's the thing. Sometimes you're going to be faced with difficulties. You're going to be faced with struggles. You're going to feel like the only option is to sink. I'm going to tell you now, in all of these moments, it turns out to be something great. In that moment, you just don't realize what the greatness is going to be. That's why I ask you, sink or swim, because most of the time, the most difficult thing to do is to swim. But I can tell you now, it is a thing that has changed my life forever. I wouldn't be in the position where I am now doing something that I'm so passionate about. I don't even see this as being work. I wake up every single morning and I want to do it. Yes, there's stressful days. Yes, there's days where I feel like even my bloody leg hairs are going grey. Yes, I have massive grey hairs sticking out of my eyebrows. Yes, there's days where I throw the mouse against the wall out of frustration because of some tech-related issues or whatever it is. But again, I'm doing something that I'm so damn passionate about, and I would not be able to be here today had it not been for the worst time of my life, and had it not been for me pushing through those difficult days, those difficult weeks, and those difficult months. And I always sit and I think about it. I think all of you guys will know by now that I've got a very overactive mind, and I think a lot, and I always sit and I think about it, and I'm like, where would I have been today had the universe not thrown what it did on my, I want to say on my course, like on my road, had it not thrown me that speed bump, where would I have been today? Would I have had the courage to get out of my comfort zone and start my own business and follow my dreams and passions? Or would I still be stuck at the job that I really didn't like towards the end? And again, like I said, yes, it was horrendous. It was one of the worst periods of my life. And, I always just look back at it and I'm like, had I not decided to swim, again, where would I have been? Would I have been living out my passion? Had I not been strong enough to, to actually wake up every single day and push through the struggles, because it was really a struggle. Like I don't think I fully comprehend I don't think I will ever fully comprehend the things that I had to deal with and had to go through that period to get to where I am currently at today. And the reason why I also share that with you is it's easy for me to sit here and say to you, if I give you the option of sinking or swimming, I want you to swim. But I also want you to know that the swimming, sometimes it's going to feel like you're swimming up against a grade 6 whitewater rafting rapid. There's going to be days where it feels like you're swimming upstream. There's going to be days where it feels like you're swimming upstream and there's like a school of shark. I don't know if that's what you call it, a school of shark. What do you call a group of sharks? Shark together. Wow, Mandy, it's very late in the day right now. And I want to be very open about that and say to you, it's not going to be easy. It is going to be difficult, okay? But again, if you give yourself that one way forward and you don't give yourself an out, the universe, the path, whatever, things are going to be thrown your way. And, someone might throw a twig in your road. Someone might throw a log in the road. Maybe your road washes away and floods away. But instead of going back and giving up, look for a way around that roadblock. Look for a way around that twig and continue moving forward with the plan. Because I can tell you now, from someone sitting here today, had I given up that day, I would literally not be in the position which I am today. And, like I said, given the option whether you sink or swim, always be brave enough to take the option of swimming. Because I can tell you now, I'm sitting here as a real life example. I can tell you now that those moments where it's difficult, those struggles, they're there for a reason. They're there to teach you something. And I can tell you now, that is waiting for you at the end of those struggles. So once you push through those struggles, once you push through those difficulties, the thing that is waiting for you at the end of that, whatever your goal is, whatever you are working on, it's going to be so damn worth it. And I know for a fact, if I can do it, and I know this is so cliche because everyone says it, but I know for a fact, if I can do it, then absolutely every single one of you guys can do it. You just need to wake up every single morning and tell yourself, no matter what gets thrown my way today, I'm going to continue swimming. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you guys like I usually do. Keep smiling, keep laughing, and keep being kind to one another. Much love, your friend who thinks she shared way too much in this episode, Mandy.